Uh, Today is day 7, March 2023. New day, new life. It's the chance to make your own mistakes all over again. And we will ask you at the Antitrust Justice in the United States of America, considering the judicial power on United Kingdom and the entire European system, and so the International Criminal Court as a court of justice, to have the interaction between yourselves as institutional dialogue, which puts the chairs out because we had problems at the use of institutional and state power by chairs. The not proper dialogue on institution will be an evidence proof about the lack of commitment as institution. We will ask you to take a look at the current effort Risk Report 2023 tracemart.blogspot.com. Please have the headlines. The post kind of repeated in many moments, but with the headline changed. And we are doing this just to observe how you indeed has the different elements as top of mind with the same substance on it, which carry the frequency as behavior by chairs in the same way the substance of institution, and the institution even changing the functionality of each institution. You will observe that the element inside the substance will kind of be pretty much the same. If we use a binary codification optimized, we will have that in all cases without equality, having only the taxonomy. If your taxonomy must present integrity and has no integrity, it's the same thing as have the lack of integrity. We observe this when the institutional corruption is a crime, just like the murder or something, despite you are sitting the chair as a bench, you as a judge or a ministry of the Supreme Court, or a member at the International Criminal Court, a director, or if you are a murderer selling drugs at the ghetto, you kind of are having the same behavior as outlaw. And by ethics running the outlaw, it's suggested to the court or judicial power spread it around, not linked with the organized crime, allow the mafia as control against variables inside the institution. That kind of a public authority or a public chair is public. It's kind of in evidence all the time during the duty and activity executed by them, or the resources managed by them, which implies the resource and interest of we all. It's not kind of a smart thing. Be a public criminal. You can't be invisible despite you consider. And this is the idea of this moment. We will have now kind of something quite simple. It's an overview. We will observe that the lack of integrity is presented in many ways, since the financial economy as your personal account, the supply and demand and the market, your investment and saving curve as your conjuncture. We had the extension as receivers of things, or the protection made by someone obtaining advantage by this, affecting equally the interest as political representation and spectral democratic representation as the will of the people. that will be threatened by ask or request their basic rights and guarantees since individual until a moral entity, state, or whatever. As you could observe in Brazil, when you request some kind of information as a guarantee of an individual, a moral entity discredit your national, state, and judicial power, you will be defaulted. Defaulted at this, defaulted in a ways. It's like this: if you are a bitch at least once, a hoe, you will be a hoe forever. In the same way, if you are a corrupted element, you will be corrupted forever, and you can do the dismiss twice. The gap as a logical gap, set the structural functionality of failure by gaps. And you can trace this using the new tracer by quadrants. The gap or gap at the logical, activity, and institutional presentation of argument, and all things can be noticed by who must present or who must request the elements to be presented. If you had a testimony, the bad element as false testimony or obstruction can be noticed by who have the testimony or by who do the testimony answering the questions. We can observe here that you had the distribution as to business phase 3. Phase 1 had the white collar crime by overpriced contracts, considering the Operation Third Win at the Federal Bureau of Investigation at the 90s, diverting things by some area with the same source, forming something new. We could observe that the illicit advantage at show business broadcasted corrupted the cultural value in many moments in all areas. And we had the attraction of youth putting on it and having the extension since the private parties until the next work or the first work by facilities. Having the corruption as an option or the nepotism as an option, you are corrupted since your very first day at the labor activity, your professional life is a fraud. And then you are subjugated, the idea as bondage, dominance, and submission. You are at your regular area, got in touch with risky elements, and sometimes have the risk as something irreversible or irrevocable at your life. If you are a drug dependence or heroin, is something that is mostly practically irreversible. In the same way, if you have a disease or a terrible disease by the bondage, dominance, and submission as practice made, you probably will have the same problem. We could observe that the pattern of counting as a counting principle, and we could check, prove, and offer to all judicial powers and courts that the illicit activity goes like this, and having the extension by areas, setting circles that can be noticed as something hierarchical or something kind of with an extension. In both cases, give me the idea as domain or influence. The domain of function by the kind of activity I do as extension. If my function is ruled by law and I have a lot of activity beyond the law, my influence is beyond the expectation as I must operate. So I will suffer requests and questions from other areas or even an intervention. We will observe that this goes in general as global activity. If it's the pandemic crime, it's beyond the lines of my things and activity running all this by failures on it, since the functionality until the range as domain, which is inside my institution, the internal control didn't work. By broken windows, I could have the interaction all around by zones as the gains and advantage, extended this, scheduled events, and I will observe this model here, easy traced by y dx dz. If the z kind of got little by little the range of these two both guys, indeed is having the dominance of the scheme at least as a trend. We could observe yet that this pattern as pandemic mobilization, we had the workflow as lines, which is basically the activities you do inside your institution, the function that allow you to execute this. In both cases here, by failure, you had the treason of state power. All around, the treason of state power runs against each and every state power that we have, even going at only one as the state community, as international sovereignty of the people. All people got treasoned by a few groups of criminals, having the influence at the future as next generation by corruption as extension interaction through the corrupted functionality inside the institution. You betray equally the commitment as development of mankind. Brazilian Constitution, it's written there. And we observe that the range of activity as principle of counting, in general, we had A that is related with B and C, B that will be related with A and B and C with A and B. It gives me the idea as frequent, something very crude, but observing the interaction in global scale as networking, we will have the 1 up to 100, 99 or 20, considering the immigrants, we put them all. The immigrants, the transnational organized crime, and the constitutional committee, and all courts and judges or chairs or board members that are not related with the organized crime, having the circles of protection of them to present the arguments, the reasons, the information, and all elements required to at least one single person have the decision against them all as a criminality in global scale. This situation will be interaction 1 up to 200, 2 up to 200. The chair number 2, or the space, the environment, will be 1 up to 200. The 3 will be the 1, 3, and 200. As you can observe, it will be something with kind of that frequency. If you'd like to track this using the Monte Carlo model, you will have 0 up to 200, considering something okay and something not okay, to understand the pattern as distortion that you have. If you'd like to drill down something considering at this side, you probably will have this model here, and the projection here equally considering the kind of activity as failure. And running this little by little, you will have not only the frequency as distribution of global scale, considering the influence by the use of activity on your institution using the Monte Carlo model by the density of Gauss curve, having the situation, for instance, you'd like to research this area here, which is your elements not related with organized crime, but threatened by this under injustice, stalk, harassment, or sometimes murder. You will observe that you are here with this model tracking this sampling activity here and trying to understand how serious is the protection you do. For instance, having the same comparative measurement here, or requesting the information in Brazil that must present this information at this side, and you got this side here. That's not a serious information you can consider. Have the information compared in global scale, transferring you to this area. If it's presented by the mafia, for instance, the mafia indeed is replacing this activity here despite something illegal and obtaining the privilege required at this court as antitrust justice or any court of justice or judicial power, since confirmed by law by the equity applied between criminals considering the corrupted elements using the state power that has not only in America. 15 minutes. Have a great journey to the trial and the application of all consequence by law, by ethics, and according with the stability required as ataraxia, peace, or pax.